Assalamu alaikum jami'an. Ahlan wa sahlan. My name is Iyad and I'm the CEO of Penny Software. First, let's start with a little survey. Raise your hand if you have heard of Penny Software. Great. Great audience. A quick introduction. Of course, we are a B2B enterprise SaaS for procurement management. We focus on sourcing and vendor management, and we fill a critical gap in specialized features in ERP and ease of use. We are source to pay platform that covers the entire procurement journey from end to end, from purchase requisition all the way to payment, with an emphasis on sourcing and vendor management, everything from RFQs, RFP, quotation gathering, comparison analysis, benchmarking, data-driven mass negotiation, which of course gives a data-driven procurement, cost saving and efficiency, budget control and compliance, governance and risk management. Today, we proudly serve customers across multiple industries and multiple countries. We have users that come from more than 60 countries. Today, this morning, for those who are following me on LinkedIn, and if you're not, please do. Today, I posted a screenshot from the database of Penny. I learned about a new country. I actually forgot the name of the country right now, but it's a tiny island in South America. How I learned about it? A company is using Penny over there. So we're proudly a global company coming from Saudi Arabia. But today, I'm not here to tell you only about this. I'm actually going to tell you a story about PTSD. Of course, you know what PTSD is, right? Post-traumatic stress disorder. So let me tell you a story. A few months ago, I was visiting a family member in Canada, and we were hosted by a friend of theirs, a Syrian Canadian businessman who was running a growing Arabic food distribution company in Canada. The man was very generous, very gracious, and of course, hosted us with their well-known generosity with the Syrian kunafa and the Syrian food and really nice, delicious tea. We had a really nice conversation and he was talking about his business. But what struck me is the enthusiasm of his son. He was still in college and he was very proudly talking about his involvement in the family business, which I really, really respected. And his son was very proud when he said, his eyes were almost sparkling when he said this. He said that we finally successfully implemented an ERP system, pointing that this is a sign of success, of course. His dad, of course, confirmed his enthusiasm, but couldn't help but to add a humorous comment and said, man, I don't know why it took a whole year to implement. He paused and then he said, but it's a great system. It's a great system. And then the conversation went on. And then his dad again started to become more candid and said that I must admit that this year has been the most difficult year in the life of the business. I couldn't do anything because of this ERP implementation, so complex. But of course, it's a great system. It's a great system. And then conversation went on. And then he said, I used to be able to add tiny features and make small changes when I used to use QuickBooks for accounting, for example. Now I can't do that. I can't do that before going back to the implementation company. That will drain my budget. But it's a great system. It's a great system. And my relative looked at me and said, what do you think? You're in this industry. What do you think? At that moment, I just couldn't tell the truth. I couldn't bring myself to tell him that his feelings are valid. Of course, he feels really bad about it. It's like, oh, how can I not understand this great system? But his feelings are valid. And I'm going to talk about something that many people don't want to talk about. And I think a lot of people know what I'm talking about, but they just don't admit it because that doesn't make them feel smart enough. Because those are great systems. Like, how can I? It's probably something wrong with me. But no, it's nothing wrong with you. I couldn't bring myself to tell him that actually ERPs in many verticals is an old technology before the cloud, and it has been completely replaced with verticalized cloud-based systems. ERPs are not great for everything. There are verticalized systems. And his struggle is nothing wrong with ERP. His struggle is that how could this system be a comprehensive system that's great in everything, slowing down my business right now? I'm suffering, but it's just something wrong with me. I couldn't tell him that he's not alone, that many people feel the same because ERP salespeople convince them that they're not intellectual enough to understand the sophistication of ERPs, so they must feel bad. I couldn't tell him what S in PTSD stands for. Do you get it? 70% of digital transformation fail, and that's what we're talking about, mostly ERPs. But let's talk about procurement, because here we're talking about procurement. The situation even more dire in procurement. Why? Because when you are implementing an ERP and doing the transformation in implementing an ERP, you are pushing this system to your team. So you might be successful, even though 70% fail, you might be successful in pushing your team to implement this very difficult to use system. But in procurement, you have internal stakeholders, your team, but you also have external stakeholders, your vendors. But that's actually not true. This is true in procurement. Majority of the stakeholder in digital transformation procurement are external stakeholders. The relationship is 1 to hundreds or 1 to thousands. So even if you're successful in pushing a very difficult to use system to your team, good luck doing it to your vendors. 65% of CPOs cite that suppliers' collaboration as a key challenge in digital transformation, and 60% of firms have seen an increase procurement-related risk due to slow adoption of digital tools. Not surprising. So in Penny, we provide a system that adapts to the complex procurement challenges, but delightful user experience. We have never had to train any human on how to use the system. It's a delightful user experience. On the vendor side, have you used DocuSign? Has anyone used DocuSign? When was the last time you logged into DocuSign? You don't log into DocuSign. You receive an email, you click on it, it opens DocuSign. You do have an account in DocuSign. You don't even have to go to that account. So what we did is we mimicked that experience, and we created a DocuSign-like vendor experience. Every time they receive an RFQ, an RFP, a bill, they have a system, they have Penny. They don't even have to log in. It's as easy as using DocuSign. And of course, quick implementation and adoption with local content baseline tracker, which is a different line in Penny. Let me talk about quick implementation adoption and bring you the numbers. This is the data of Penny. So from day one of implementing Penny, and we're not talking about small businesses, we're talking about large enterprises. You've seen the logo. So from day one of implementing Penny, it takes 1.4 days to invite vendors. Let me jump to the conclusion. It takes 14 days only from the first day of adopting the system to successfully submitting an RFQ. 14 days. You know, and I know that we have met so many companies that will tell us that we have been implementing the system for more than a year now, but we're not done yet. It takes 14 days for our customers, global customers, by the way, to adopt the system. That is the modern experience of technology. That is the modern experience of SaaS. If you think otherwise, you're just behind. That is the reality. Let's talk about saving. Of course, the heart and soul of Penny is procurement, sourcing, RFQs, and RFPs. Saving. The direct saving, which is the definition, this is the definition, between the accepted offer and the initial offer of the awarded vendor. So you talk to many vendors. One of those vendors eventually, you went with one of those vendors, the price is 100K, the initial offer was 120, that's the direct saving. An average is 6.11%. Add that to the bottom line. The median is 4%. And by the way, we remove the positive outliers in this calculation to give a more accurate representation. Cost avoidance. What do we mean by cost avoidance? The difference between the accepted final offer and the average of all initial offers. So you look at the average of all. By the way, whether you spin it or not, these are important KPIs to track. The average between the accepted offer and, the difference between the accepted offer and the average of all initial offer. This KPI tells you a lot about the cost avoidance. The average in Penny is 27.5% and the median is 8.6%. Meaning that if you back of the envelope calculation, if your spend is $200 million, let's say 25% of your spend is sourced spend. This is not your direct spend. This is the spend where you do sourcing for RFQs and RFP. And by the way, you might not be doing a lot of RFQs and RFP today because you lack the tools. But if you have the tool, it will be easier to do so. Then 50 million as an estimate in this example is the source spend. You'll be saving $3 million. That adds to the bottom line. There's an unfactored saving. The unfactored saving is time saving, manpower optimization, risk management, governance, and transparency. Last but not least, the local content baseline. A lot of you here have talked to us about the local content baseline. I see Kenan somewhere. He is, mashallah, the ustadna fil local content. Local content baseline is the first technology of its kind that helps you automate the process of calculating the local content baseline in accordance with the LCGPA calculation. I can talk a lot about this. That requires another discussion. But if you are interested and if you are keen to learn more about it, please visit us. Our booth is here and we will be happy to serve you. Thank you very much.